Hello friends, so now we will start with our next lecture, which is on the topic of features of Constitution of India. Our Constitution of India, as you know, it is the lengthiest written constitution of the world, and the Constitution of India, the features of Constitution are borrowed from various sources of different sources, like different countries' constitution. Like it is borrowed from the British Constitution. Many of the features, majority of the features are borrowed from British Constitution. American Constitution, South African Constitution, German Constitution, then Ireland Constitution, and Australian Constitution, etc., etc., and Russian Constitution, French Constitution. So, important features of the Constitution of India we must know. On which are the you can say which are the ideals of the Constitution of India, on which the Constitution of India actually is based upon, the main features of the Constitution of India. That is actually very important to understand the entire Constitution, because unless and until you know the features of the Constitution of India, you cannot understand each and every separate article of the Constitution of India. So in the last lecture, we have studied about the various parts of the Constitution along with the articles and the schedules. Schedules also we have studied. Now we will study about the features of Constitution of India. So to start with features of Constitution, the first point is our Constitution provides single citizenship of the country. So there is no separate citizenship, as you know that US Constitution has a separate citizenship, like separate state citizenship as well as separate the US citizenship. So in which state you are living. So if you are living in Arizona state, for example, so Arizona citizenship is different, and the US citizenship is different. While in India we have a unified centralized citizenship. Next point. So we have a justiciable fundamental rights which are being written in the Constitution of India from Article 13 to 32 in Part 3rd of the Constitution. So fundamental rights are justiciable. That means if in case of violation of your fundamental rights by the state or even any private party, you can approach the court to enforce the fundamental rights. So they are justiciable in nature from Article 13 to 32 in Part 3rd of the Constitution. While the fundamental duties and DPSP, which are the directive principle of state policy, fundamental duties which a citizen has to follow, and DPSP, directive principles, the points, the instructions for the government to follow while drafting or making policies for the common citizen of India. So fundamental rights, FD and DPSP, so they are being included in the Constitution of India, and FR is justiciable. FD and DPSP are not justiciable. You cannot approach the court for the enforcement of fundamental duties or DPSP. If any government does not follow the DPSP, you cannot approach the court. Or even if a citizen is not following its fundamental duty, the state cannot approach the court against that citizen of India. So this is the main feature of the Constitution of India. Now fundamental rights, this is being borrowed from the US Constitution, United States Constitution, and DPSP from the Irish Constitution. And the fundamental duties, you already know that on the recommendations of the Swaran Singh Committee, these fundamental duties have been incorporated in the Constitution of India. So these fundamental rights are not absolute in nature. They are actually being subjected to some safeguards on the basis of the morality, integrity of the country, morality, decency, contempt of the court, incitement to an offence, etc., etc. So this is another feature of the Constitution of India. Next is third point, which is secularism. So secularism. So you already know that the Indian secularism is different from the Western secularism. So Western secularism is a concept of negative secularism, while secularism is a concept of positive, in which all the religions are being promoted equally. So government will respect all the religions, while Western secularism is free from all the religions. So government will not follow any religion. There is no religion of the government. Government will not promote any religion. So religion is the private practice of a citizen. While Indian secularism is where government will promote all the religions, so that all the religions will flourish equally in the country. So that is the concept of positive secularism in our country. Next, independent and integrated judiciary. So independent, you already know that the conditions of the service, the tenure of the service are independent, are fixed, and they cannot be changed after the appointment of the judges. So they are independent of the control of executive as well as legislature. And integrated means both this High Court and Supreme Court, they can enforce all the state laws as well as the central laws. While in US, the High Court in the state can enforce only that state laws, while the central laws have been enforced by the Supreme Court. While in India, we have an integrated judiciary where the High Court and Supreme Court will enforce both the state as well as central laws. And we have an independent judiciary. I have already told you that it is free from the interference of the executive and the legislature. Next important point, emergency provisions. So here we have which is a unique to our constitution, emergency provisions. We have the national emergency, we have the state emergency, and we have the financial emergency. So national emergency is Article 362. Article 362 is national emergency. 352. Then Article 356 is President rule. State emergency is called national emergency, 352. Then state emergency 356 and 365. 356, where the government cannot work as per the provisions of the constitution, and where 365, where the government will study those articles in detail when the particular topic being discussed in the class. So Article 365, where the directives of the union government has not been followed, constitutional directive has not been followed by the state government. And 360 is financial emergency. So these emergency provisions are unique to our constitution. Then next point, rule of law. Rule of law. So here we have the rule of law, means all citizens are subject to the same laws of the land and no citizen is above the law of the land. कोई उसके सब उसके subjected है और सब equally subjected to the laws of the land. So absence of arbitrariness, no arbitrariness is there. All citizens will be arbitrariness. ठीक है, equality before law, all citizens are equal before law. And no arbitrariness means so unless until you perform a crime, you cannot be punished. So you will be punished only you have breached the law. Then the last point, source of rights. So here the constitution is the source of the rights of the individual. So constitution is supreme in our country, while in Britain it is the people. It is the people which actually is the source of the rights of the country. So people are the primary thing, means citizens of that country. When India, constitution is supreme and constitution is the source of rights. So it is through the constitution that people get their fundamental rights. So this concept, source of rights, here source of rights is constitution in India. While in Britain it is the people or citizens. Then important point. So we have the lengthiest written constitution that I already told you. 7th point, lengthiest written constitution. So initially, when the constitution has come into force, we have 395 articles, 8 parts, 22 parts, and 8 schedules. But now, after amendment, we have 448, 25 and 12. ये चेंज हो गए हैं, ठीक है. And lengthiest written, while the Britain Constitution is not written anywhere. So by the means of conventions and procedures, all the executive, legislature, judiciary function. While in India it is the written constitution, which you know is the lengthiest written constitution of the world. Then next point, separation of powers. Separation of power, that Article 50 क्या कहता है? That the state will strive to separate the functions of legislature, judiciary and executive. Executive is free from judiciary is free from the control of the executive as well as the legislature. So separation of powers हमारे यहाँ implemented है हमारे constitution में. So US में तो वाटर टाइट है, सेपरेशन है, वाटर टाइट सेपरेशन है यूएस में ऑफ द इंटरफेरेंस. लेकिन हमारे यहाँ वाटर टाइट नहीं है, हमारे यहाँ बैलेंस्ड सेपरेशन है. यू कैन से बैलेंस सेपरेशन. वो कैसे है? एग्जीक्यूटिव रिस्पॉन्सिबल टू लेजिस्लेचर, ठीक है, रिस्पॉन्सिबल टू लेजिस्लेचर, और लेजिस्लेचर कैन वोट टू रिमूव द एग्जीक्यूटिव, है ना. लेजिस्लेचर वोट कर सकता है टू रिमूव द एग्जीक्यूटिव. Impeachment of judges by the legislature. और majority in legislature becomes executive, है ना. ये एग्जीक्यूटिव बन जाते हैं जो मेजोरिटी होती है इसकी. तो वाटर टाइट सेपरेशन नहीं है, तो एक दूसरे में एक चेक एंड बैलेंस भी है कि कोई भी ऑर्गन ऐसा ना हो जाए कि बिल्कुल ही ऑटोक्रेटिक नेचर का हो जाए. तो चेक एंड बैलेंसेस आर देयर इन आवर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया. सो देयर इज नॉट अ स्ट्रिक्ट सेपरेशन ऑफ पावर एज यूएस में जैसा है, बट वी हैव अ बैलेंस सेपरेशन जिसमें चेक एंड बैलेंसेस भी है. सो दैट इज द कीवर्ड, चेक्स एंड बैलेंसेस, ठीक है. नेक्स्ट वी हैव द पार्लियामेंट्री फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट. नेक्स्ट वी हैव द पार्लियामेंट्री फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट. You already know about the parliamentary form of government. यूएस में ये ब्रिटिश कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की तरह हमने अडॉप्ट किया है. यूएस में प्रेसिडेंशियल है. सो हेयर पार्लियामेंट, सो ब्रिटेन में पार्लियामेंट इज सोवरन, बट हेयर पार्लियामेंट इज नॉट सोवरन. हेयर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इज सोवरन. सो पार्लियामेंट्री फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट, पार्लियामेंट इसमें लोकसभा, राज्यसभा, ठीक है. एंड so presence of nominal and real executive. Nominal executive is the president of India, and while real is the prime minister. So de facto, de jure. De facto is prime minister, de jure is the president of India. And ठीक है. Then we have a 3-tier government. आपको पता है, सेंटर, स्टेट, while local self government, which is पंचायत, म्यूनिसिपैलिटीज, ठीक है. So by the means of 73rd and 74th amendment of the Constitution of India, Article 243. Then quasi-federal, structure. Quasi-federal structure क्या है? So that is actually a cooperative federalism. हमारे यहाँ प्योर फेडरलिज्म नहीं है. फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर है बट विद अ सेंट्रलाइजिंग टेंडेंसी, यानी कि स्टेट्स को भी स्टेट्स को अपने यहाँ ऑटोनॉमी दी गई है बट सेंट्रलाइजिंग टेंडेंसी, यानी कि जब इमरजेंसी होती है तो ऑब्वियसली सेंटर के पास पावर पहुंच जाती है, या सेंटर के पास ज़्यादा पावर दी गई है, प्रेसिडेंट रूल इम्पोज कर सकता है सेंटर अगर स्टेट गवर्नमेंट एज पर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन फंक्शन नहीं कर रही है। उसके अलावा फेडरेशन में मेजोरिटी जो रेवेन्यू है वो सेंटर के पास जाता है, जैसे जीएसटी के स्ट्रक्चर में अभी वो फिर सेंटर उसको डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करता है स्टेट्स को। तो सेंट्रलाइजिंग टेंडेंसी है हमारे देश में। ऑब्वियसली जो आर्म फोर्सेज हैं वो सब सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के अंडर में है, ठीक है। तो क्वासी फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर है वेयर एंड यू नो आर्टिकल 234 कहता है स्टेट्स का बनना, अगर स्टेट्स की बाउंड्री चेंज होनी है सब सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के अंडर में है। सो क्वासी फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर हियर व्हिच वी आर फॉलोइंग। फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी एंड रिजिडिटी, देन फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी एंड रिजिडिटी 13 फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी एंड रिजिडिटी। अच्छा, इसमें क्या है, ऑब्वियसली हमारे यहाँ मिक्स ऑफ फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी एंड रिजिडिटी है। जैसे ब्रिटिश अमेरिकन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इज टू रिजिड टू अमेंड, बट हियर इंडिया इट इज नॉट टू रिजिड टू अमेंड। सम ऑफ द प्रोविजंस आर सिंपल टू अमेंड व्हाइल अदर प्रोविजंस आर डिफिकल्ट टू अमेंड। जैसे अगर आपको फंडामेंटल राइट्स में कुछ चेंजेस करने हैं, डीपीएस में कुछ चेंजेस करने हैं, तो दैट इज डिफिकल्ट टू अमेंड, दैट रिक्वायर स्पेशल मेजोरिटी, while some provisions require simple majority. If you want to create a legislative council in a state, or if you want to change the boundary of the state, or you want to create a new state out of a existing state, so it requires a simple majority. And some provisions are require special majority with ratification of the states. So those provisions like election of the president of India, so that require special majority plus ratification of the state. So we have a mix of flexibility and rigidity in our constitution of India. Then obviously universal adult franchise, so हमारे यहाँ सब above 18 को वोटिंग राइट्स दिए गए हैं रिस्पेक्टिव ऑफ द रेस, कास्ट, सेक्स, रिलीजन और प्लेस ऑफ बर्थ, एंड ड्रॉन फ्रॉम वेरियस सोर्सेज। एंड वी हैव इंडिपेंडेंट बॉडीज लाइक यूपीएससी, कैग, सुप्रीम कोर्ट वगैरह, हाई कोर्ट, जो चेक एंड बैलेंसेस मेंटेन करते हैं एग्जीक्यूटिव के ऊपर, ठीक है। सो दिस इज द मेन फीचर्स ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया। इन द नेक्स्ट लेक्चर वी विल स्टडी द कंपैरिजन ऑफ आवर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन vis-a-vis other countries' constitution. Till then, wait for my next lecture, and if you like my lecture, kindly like it, subscribe it, and kindly don't forget to press the notification button. Thank you so much.